Hi everyone, my name is Raquel with rcpmag.com, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us. The topic of today's webcast is Ramp Up Security in Times of Uncertainty, sponsored by ShareWeb. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping details. There will be a Q&A session towards the end of today's presentation, so please type any questions that you may have in the Q&A box. ShareWeb has also provided some great resources, so please take a moment to check those out. And additionally, this webcast is being recorded, so keep an eye out for a link in your email to rewatch the presentation or share it with a colleague. And now, without further ado, I'll pass the time over to Guillaume, our first speaker, to get us started.
Thanks, Raquel. So, hi, let me start by introducing myself. I'm Guillaume Boisvert. I'm the Director of Product Innovation at ShareWeb. I've been at ShareWeb for 7 years now. I come from a technical background, but now I'm more in product management. Very happy to be here today. It's kind of nice to be with other people for a change. I know it's still virtual, but it's a little less isolation than my basement, which if you look at the presenter video, you can see an exclusive view of my basement office. At least I got a nice shiny window. With me today, two people. Actually, we have a special guest, a little bit of a last minute guest. So Henry Cheng is our product marketing manager for all security product at ShareWeb. And we'll be presenting one of our very new tool that we're very happy to share with you today. Very exclusive view. I think this is the first group of people that get access to it. And with us as well is Alex Laflamme, who's, what's your exact title, Alex?
Subject matter expert, modern workplace. I did not make that up.
That's actually a great title, and he's here today. So it's because we had our whole presentation ready, and we've been ready for this webinar before sort of all hell broke loose and normalcy took a bit of a backseat. And since then, there's been a lot of question asked of ShareWeb about working from home, working remotely, as you can guess. And we wanted to make sure we included some content on that to give you a hand and to make it as useful as possible to everybody. We felt it was worth it to change last minute. To give you a bit of content. When we look at today's reality, that image may look like a funny balloon, but it is actually not that far from a half-correct representation of the coronavirus. And the thing that we've seen and discussing with the MSPs and everything is a big surge in hacker activity, phishing, spamming, scam, fraud, all that stuff. And while everybody is trying to do their best to deal with the situation, and MSPs such as yourself, technical people, the people at ShareWeb have worked really hard to keep the business in place. Everybody can now work from home. It's great. We're actually one of the lucky few. We're in a great business that's very active right now, and our team has helped us. People have tried to take advantage of the situation, which is a little bit unbelievable, but at the same time, you better believe it, because as the IT team for your clients, you will be asked to react to that, to take action. How low will people go is a good question. There was an article, blog post basically produced by Barracuda, who produce different software and equipment to deal with some security stuff. And in their email filtering, they've seen they've seen many thousands of incidents of people basically their fraud or their scam is that they threaten to infect people in their family unless you pay a ransom, which is not even clever. Like, they didn't hack anything or anything. It's just completely tasteless. But it's incredible that people will stoop to that level in a situation like this where we need to help each other and help each other succeed. Let's not be too doom and gloom. There's a lot of things to do for us as IT people in this situation. And I think that's probably the best thing to kind of hang on to is the work that we have to do and the good things that we do for our clients. And the first thing that we'll do today is what we added to our content is to talk a little bit about how to facilitate remote work. And to talk about that, let me hand it over to our good friend, Alex Laflamme.
Thanks, Guillaume. Like you just said, these are special times. A lot of companies, a lot of your clients, a lot of partners have to work from home now, and there are some bad actors out there. There are some people that are trying to take advantage of that, and even without any bad actors out there. Just the scrambling that a lot of partners and a lot of clients have been doing just to try to get communications going have led to a lot of security risks. There was one application that's become very, very popular in the past couple of weeks that I won't name here, that everybody was jumping onto. But now this week, a lot of privacy issues and security issues have been brought up about this application. So it's causing a lot of confusion, you know, in the market, in this situation that everyone is trying to deal with. What we've tried to do is create little packages, little options for people to first address the current situation, so just to make sure that everyone gets to be back up and running from their home. But we're also making sure that people understand that they don't need to sacrifice any type of security to be able to achieve those goals. On top of that, while if you're a partner and you have clients that are moving onto a remote work schedule, there's also an aspect of a long-term vision that's fairly important as well, because you may want to patch and make sure that they're running now, but there may be some good lessons to be learned, you know, for after the situation, how to continue to work from home for certain people, what type of productivity gains you can do from there. So we had created a little webinar, a little guide, and this is a part of the material that we can make available to you that showed the basic steps that you can take to help, again, like your clients or even like your own employees work from home. And the way they were set up, the first steps were just very easy, very basic. Some of them are actually free because right now, even for Microsoft, there's some trials going on right now for Teams, for companies that had never used Teams before. So they don't have to expense anything, and then they'll be back up and running. So you want to make sure that they'll be able to contact video chat with each other, just because as Guillaume just said, it's really good to see people nowadays. I mean, I love my family, but if I don't see them for a few hours, I will be very, very happy. And that hasn't happened in weeks. The other steps become a bit more complex. So you have the step 2 remote access. This is usually with RDS type services that you can set up. Again, we do have experts internally, or you may be already familiar with that. Third steps is to talk about the other aspects of communications that may not have been part of the conversations before. So say, for example, you have your clients working from home now. They're using their home devices, their cell phones, their home phones. How is that affecting the business? Like, is it using their minutes? Is it their phone number that's showing up instead of the company phone number? So we do want to help you, ask those questions to make sure that they can still have that same type of productivity with their own clients. The fourth step was Windows Virtual Desktop, which has been pushed by Microsoft into general release a bit early. So there's still a lot of things to kind of work out, some kinks to work out. But as far as the image and the default, the templates, it's beautiful. It works great. It saves a ton of steps. And if there's some things that you or your clients wouldn't be comfortable with, there are third-party companies that can help making that even easier, even faster. Nerdio comes to mind. For step 5 and step 6, those are more long-term type plans. So again, like doing a full migration to the cloud, using things like VPN connections. So again, this is just a quick breakdown as to what we covered, but we did have full webinars and Q&As on this, and we have a lot of resources available as well. That's pretty much it for my part.
So Alex, we wanted to make sure we kind of threw you in there at the last minute, just one to make it a little tougher on you, but also I think it's a subject that's very, very relevant to the people that are here on the webinar. Where would you sort of advise them to go get that further information? You mentioned a few things, but specifically, like, what would you recommend as a next step, especially if they're looking to work with SureWeb, or even if they're not?
Yeah, well, if they were looking to work with SureWeb, we did create a full guide, that shows all the steps that they can take, all the different programs that are attached to those steps. Because again, the situation is fluid. A lot of our providers, a lot of different companies out there are offering trials because they understand that people need to work, but they're not in a position right now to spend a lot of money to enable that, right? So we show all the different promotions, again, like how to get on Teams for free, E1 trials as well. We do have phone options as well. So as soon as you get used to working from home with Teams, I mentioned that a bit earlier, like how to make sure that whenever you're calling from your cell phone, you're not using your minutes, it's not your long distance, it's not your cell phone number that's showing. Well, if you have the options from ShareWeb, you're able to work the same way you would normally, but on the other side, it shows a much more professional, just as if you had the office building from before. So
I think that's one of the things that helped us to move quickly was the fact that we had all those cloud services already in place. I know they equip all the salespeople like with soft phones, and they can dial basically the same as if they were in the office. We may never take you back into the office, the whole sales team.
Yep, and it's I think it'll be a win-win.
Okay.
I'll stay home and play my Magic
Thank
cards.
you very much, Alex.
Thank you.
So this is a quick overview of short-term, the thing that you should focus on. Moving on to Henry, I think here it's a little bit more of a long-term, not necessarily long-term, but it's looking towards the future a little bit more. We've been discussing security with our partners a lot in the last few years, really, but we've never seen as much interest for it from clients and then obviously from managed service partners. The idea is we wanted to equip people that are a little bit less, something a bit more structured for people to use as they're doing security assessment with their client. We're going to do multiple iterations of that, and we'll get better and more complex as we go, or support more complex scenario. For now, we call the Security Foundation Assessment because that's what it is. It's a great starting point. I want to welcome Henry to the conversation. He's the one who led the creation of this assessment with our security experts, and he'll talk about where he got the information. I think one thing I want to point out is, as I've been using it, I really like it because it's not it's not specifically a sales tool. We're not trying to convince partner to use our product. What we're trying to do is provide practical advice. So take it away, Henry.
All right. Thank you, Guillaume. And thank you for that lovely introduction. You stole some of my best lines, so I'll do my best to improvise. So just to explain a little bit as to what the Security Foundation Assessment is, as Guillaume said, it's the idea is this is supposed to be a good little base. But importantly, a few important things to note. First, this is a tool that we've developed. It's not a gimmick. It's we put some serious effort into this to make this a tool that can actually help you bring value to your customers, and also to really help you, say, structure work and start conversations that are hard to sometimes start with your customers. It is a free tool. There's no charge to anybody to make use of it. As I said, it's to help start conversations, and importantly, it's to help really assess the vulnerability and the security posture of your customers' IT environment. And it's at the end of all that, it's also designed to make some serious, some solid actionable recommendations that can be followed, right upon completion of even the assessment. It's designed specifically based off of the guidance and the guidelines put forward by NIST and CIS, and most particularly CIS Control version 7.1. And at the end of all this, there's, as you'll soon see, there's the first part of this is an online version of an online tool, and then there's going to be a consultative session offered by us, again, free of charge, at the end of all that. So let me just advance a little bit more. So again, it's a CIS Control 7.1 based assessment. So it's just, we really scoured fairly long and hard to make
Henry?
Sure that, yes?
I hate to put you on the spot, but can you tell people a little bit what CIS is?
Sorry, excuse me. So yes, so the CIS is it's one of the organizations that actually puts out designs. Has put together and designed effectively best practices for what you should be doing in order to assess, like say, all the areas in your IT environment or customer's IT environment, whoever, to determine whether or not you have secured a particular point of functionality. So to that end, the CIS controls is separated into, is organized effectively by you can look at it as a capacity view. It's organized in such a way that it provides you guidance with, say, how to assess your security posture if you're a small organization, if you're a small company, if, say, you're a more mature company with more resources, and then if, say, you're a mega corporation or a really big, a very mature organization with all the resources to assess basically every important area of potential cybersecurity, say, every important area of cybersecurity. So that's what the CIS controls are. It's both CIS. So CIS, it's a more digestible way of targeting any assessments of your cybersecurity, say, fundamentals, so to speak, depending on your ability to say enact these assessments and then to implement these actions which will secure your particular organization. So that's what the CIS controls are. You can say basically just for full transparency, us at SureWeb, we base our security protocols on the CIS control as well. So this is in line with the thinking that we would never say offer anything that we ourselves do not fully back ourselves and which we ourselves do not use. So we have full faith and trust in CIS controls and in their ability to design and put together guidance and guidelines for how to secure an organization, and that's how we're following those principles to secure ourselves. And we're now making this available to you and basically to help your any potential customers or customers you have to assess their security postures. So that's the long-ish answer. I hope I haven't lost any of you there. So that's what the CIS controls are. And then with particular respect to the tool that we've built, it's effectively, you can look at it as a three-part thing. The first part is a 25-question web questionnaire, where the questions are fairly delineated by the security functions that we need to look at, the various security layers, so to speak. And then there's a second part, which is basically the full report that's based off of the answers that the respondent gives the questionnaire. And then finally, there's a part 3, which is a consultative session where, again, we once someone has done the questionnaire, has gotten the report, they then chat with us to really dig deeper into what the report means and then to figure out how to proceed and how to, say, provide a proper managed security solution to their customers. So that's what this boils down to. So we look at it less as an assessment and more, say, like as almost like effectively a program that we're actually developing to offer value to partners. So just this is a quick little teaser of what the questionnaire looks like, and then I'll give you a very quick demo of it. So in the bid to actually make this useful and bring value to everybody who actually makes use of this, is that we're not just asking questions, but we're explaining why we're asking the questions as we go along. So that in this way, it's not everything that we've done is to make sure this is useful and not be fluffy. So if we're going to ask a question there, we're also going to understand why, and some of these questions might touch areas where a respondent has never even thought of looking. So this gives context as to why this type of question is important. So that's the structure for every question that's asked. Then at the conclusion of this, right away, the respondent gets an executive summary, which already gives a very high-level view of where their customer's security posture is. So even right from there, we're trying, even from the executive summary, to make it actionable right off of the bat. And then when that's all done and the respondent, say, signs up and gives consent to basically be contacted, they'll get a full report, which broadens the report to give more detailed general recommendations as to how they can proceed to address a particular weakness or cybersecurity vulnerability, and it also gets more specific recommendations about SureWeb can provide solutions to help make that task more manageable, make it easier to implement. So that's what the web components of this assessment program look like. So, oops, sorry, excuse me, I advanced too much. So now with that, I'm going to start sharing my screen, my other screen, so that you can see what this assessment questionnaire looks like live. So pardon me a second while I share my screen. Okay, it's loading. The sharing is loading. Okay, so I believe everyone can now see it. So I'm just going to give a very quick overview of what the introduction page looks like. So you can see this is an entirely web-based document, and it gives you a quick introduction, and then you can just jump right in right away with Get Started. So I'm not going to go through all the questions. We'd be here a little while. So I am going to just run through a few, and then give you a quick overview of what the report's going to look like. So as I said in my little preamble about it, you can see that each question has it's the question itself, followed by a why we ask a blurb. And every question, yes?
So
yes?
Based off of a question from the audience, people are wondering, is this questions for you as a partner, or are they for a typical client about their own security?
Okay, that's a very good question. So right now, the questionnaire, as it's structured, it's designed primarily, this particular iteration is designed so that you, as a partner with customers or prospects, you are filling this in based on what you know of your customer or what you're currently providing for your customer. So the idea behind this is that we've produced this tool to make it easier for MSPs to actually do a security assessment for their customer. So it's designed to be useful in that particular way. Now, obviously,
and I see people that seem to be directly with organization, like end customer organization. Would they be able to use this this tool as well for their own security evaluation?
Absolutely. No, it's like, so so right now we have just one version of this tool. However, the questions, because the questions are based off of the CIS controls and cover all the most important aspects of cybersecurity, yeah, you can. You just have to, basically, you'll still be going through the questions, you'll be answering the questions, but basically you'll be answering questions about yourself if you are, say, using this directly for yourself. And then you can have access to that full report regardless. There's later plans for, as Guillaume said at the outset, for improving this and producing probably different iterations, different versions of this report, where there might be, say, something directly for yourself, as opposed to, say, like right now we're just structured for people to do this for their customers and so on. But right now, well, that's what it is for now. In the future, we may have, or we likely will have, something that's available for you yourself directly, and to, say, any customers you may have. I hope that answers the question.
Very much so. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. No worries. So, as I say, I'm not going to go through every question in this. I just want to go through a few to show you, just give you an idea of the flow and structure of how this is designed. So, in every there's no randomization of questions, so every questionnaire is going to be the same in terms of the sequence, and it always starts off with, say, general questions. So, for example, this question 1 here says it's just how many users does your typical customer have in an organization, and then we give a range. We use the most typical ranges that we know of that our partners or our organizations have. So I'm just going to enter one right away, and then click next. And then, as you can see, there's always a question followed by or paired with why we ask, right? So here now, what's the representative number of devices per user in your typical customer's organization? So having worked in many,
point out that you got started on this and you didn't have to input an email address or a phone number or anything like that, which is kind of nice. Mm-hmm. It's something that we discussed internally, and we thought it was important that people could get access to the question and the information without having to sort of register first.
Mm. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's that's absolutely correct. So yeah, no, that's so just to broaden on that point right now. So yeah, so as you saw, we just jumped into this right away. We're not asking you to exchange information up front, because that goes against our intent to provide legitimate, genuine value to everybody. And for the inevitable question about say potentially losing this file, like if say your browser closes or your machine shuts down, take heart. This questionnaire has been designed such that your responses are stored locally in your machine, so that you can just pick up the session where you left off if you accidentally close a browser or your machine shuts off. But critically, we're storing no information as you go along, like not until you sign up to actually get the full report. So take heart that we are not going, like, any information that's specific to you or your answers that you've put in are always going to stay just with you until you give us authorization to give you the full report. Then and only then will we actually have, say, your answers recorded. But before that, it's all on your machine. But for convenience sake, it stays on your machine so that you won't lose your session if you accidentally close the browser or something else happens. All right, so I'm going to continue if there's no other questions about this. So I'm just going to show you a couple more questions. So this is still in the general, so I'm going to just fly right past these so that I can just get to less general questions. And, after all this, so we've given you the link to this assessment anyhow. So feel free, obviously, we encourage you to try this assessment when you're done this. So nearly done the general questions. So now I'm just going to show you a more specific cybersecurity question. So for example, now that we've gone from more general questions to a more specific function, like a cybersecurity function, you'll note that the question right away here, the category changes. So we call it direct. And then if you mouse over the information, it explains what exactly it is this category is supposed to represent. I'm not going to read to you the mouse over, since, again, you'll be able to check this out yourself soon. As always, we continue to explain why we're asking these questions, and then we just answer. Then click next, and you'll note the simplicity that with which we designed this questionnaire. With the exception of the general questions, everything is basically a yes/no question. In future iterations, we'll delve into having more complexity in the assessment, but for now, we settle upon questions that can be answered with yes/no responses, which nonetheless should be helpful in discerning the security posture of your clients, or in the case of, if you say you're direct, if you're doing this directly for yourselves, for yourselves. So I'm just going to do a couple more just to show you, and then as you can see, as you go along, there's a tracker for how many questions you've done. And, as always, it's just simple question, context for why we're asking the question, and the category of this. So I'm just going to jump ahead quickly to show you what happens when you've answered all the questions, for example. So this is the executive summary. So once you get to the executive summary, here, it goes in, it gives you an overall summary of how you're doing. It explains just broadly what the total risk that we've identified is, okay? And then broken down by, say, the different areas of cybersecurity, or cybersecurity layer, so to speak, just what's your risk, what we assess your risk to be based on the questions we've asked you. And so as you can see, this is the executive summary. And as I say, already this is designed to be useful even just as is, right? However, if you want a more detailed report, that's when you would click Get the Full Report. And it's this point that you would enter your contact information, and then you're authorizing us then that's when you'll be getting the full report. And after this point as well, it's at this point that you can actually arrange for a consultative session with somebody from SureWeb to go over what your full report means after you've received it, obviously, and just what your next steps could be and what else you might want to consider. Okay, so I'm not going to fill this out again. I'm going to jump instead to showing you what filled out report looks like. What the full report looks like. So this is the full report. So here again, it's all the categories I discussed before are still here. So overall, your general, your detect and identify. And because there's going to be a fair bit of information, we've made it such that you can collapse it and then just walk through the various different threats, vulnerabilities, the recommendations, our specific recommendations that SureWeb can actually do, and then what we recommend to help you with implementing this particular, say, improving this particular area of security. So I'm going to pick just like a few at random here, just to give you a sense of what you can actually see in this in the report's recommendations, and then I'll show you at the bottom of this. There's links to products that we do offer, which can help you with, improving the cybersecurity posture of your customer or yourselves right at the bottom report. So let's just go and pick something from the detect later, right? So here, just to show you quickly, we've assessed based on the answers that were inputted that this particular hypothetical respondent has a medium risk of is at medium risk for being attacked or breached for the detect layer of security. And so we explain what that means. First, overall. So here we're saying that the person responded has some understanding of how unauthorized hardware and software can be threats and so on. But obviously, since this is medium risk, the readiness is not optimal. And then we go into specifics. So here, for example, the person answered the question in such a way that for example, not every endpoint, so not every device, a computer or mobile device or whatever else might be in the environment, not everything here is protected so that every endpoint can actually be exploited, right? So what this means, we'll go into this a bit more broadly. So that's the threat, right? Then we explain the vulnerability. What that means in terms of vulnerability is that every device doesn't have at least one layer of protection. So translation, that means that there's not at least, like, say, one anti-malware or antivirus that's on every device. So here we give a general recommendation. And again, this is general. To explain this further, every recommendation that's a general recommendation here can be implemented using products that aren't ours, or in some cases, we've even cited, say, open source possibilities as ways of actually implementing these recommendations. However, and I must highlight this and emphasize this, whenever we talk about something that's, say, open source or it's not something that we actually offer, we have to be clear, these are not endorsements. However, we do want you to be aware, or whoever's reading this report to be aware, that there are products and solutions that are available independently of whether or not they ultimately get these solutions from SureWeb. It's obviously not our preferred recommendation, but this is still it's a recommendation, and we set out to be useful in this way right off the bat. So going back to this, so we recommend, for example, because not every endpoint device has been protected, we say deploy an antivirus solution as a layer of security for these devices. And we're also quick to point out it shouldn't be the only line of defense, but it's still important to have. And then we cap that off by saying how we ourselves can help. And so obviously, SureWeb does provide an antivirus, anti-malware solution, or endpoint protection solution. And in particular, the one we really recommend is Bitdefender, because based on everything that we've actually researched and read independently, Bitdefender is objectively the most powerful, most precise, most basically elegant endpoint protection, while still using the fewest amount of system resources. It's objectively, by independent tests, the most powerful and accurate such solution. So we do recommend Bitdefender. And then if we go for another example, let's see here. Here's another threat that was identified, is that that there's unverified devices and services inside the organization of the person who was assessed here, And we say that this, this is obviously a vulnerability because it's not been vetted. It could be carrying a malware. So here, our recommendation is that all the devices need to be audited on a regular basis, right? And as I said before, we're very open to letting you know that there are open source solutions out there. And again, these are not endorsements of these in any way, shape, or form. But we do want to be honest brokers in all this and let you know that there's other possibilities. However, we obviously do have our own recommendations because these are things that we know well that many instances we are used for our organization, and which we highly recommend as a way for you to use and offer security services with. So in this case, for example, the audits we recommend Microsoft Intune, for example, or SureWeb's own NOC services. And then, at the end of all that, we give you that recommendation, the Microsoft Intune NOC services, so you can more easily see just what type of services can be offered. So in another instance, right? Actually, I think I've given you a fair bit to digest right there and then. So I'm going to move on to the last bits about this that you should know about. So once you have this full report, you can print this out. For those of you who find hard copies to be useful, you can print this out. I'm just waiting for it to generate. Now I've clicked print. And my system is picking a perfect moment to not work properly. My apologies.
Murphy's Law is at work for sure.
So, okay. So I'm going to just refresh this.
So I'm assuming that's where you're going with this, but one of the comments in the Q&A section was that this would be a great tool to start a conversation either internally with your own business or with your clients about cyber operation requirements, like things that we need to do, getting a bit of a second voice to help you justify the projects that you have around cybersecurity. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's it. It's like this is like in the end, like this is a tool. It's meant to be informative. It's meant to be educational, and it's hard to quantify. So this can serve as a guide to help that in that regard.
Do you want to try to print again, or are you too scared?
Yeah, I'm gonna try one more time. I swear, everyone, this was working earlier in the day. Just before.
Yeah, that is Murphy's Law.
Okay. Yeah. So sorry. Let me just. Okay. I'm sorry about this. Let me just try to do this. Let me close this and restart this. And I'll try a separate browser because I do want to show you. Actually, let's take advantage of the fact that something else is actually working. So when you've finished all this and you have a full report, you can actually take the link for it anywhere with you and just reopen it in any other browser. So I'm going to just do that right now. And
I think that's what you know. That is not
better luck. I'm sorry. No, this is. I was using this. So I generated this link before when I did all this, so that we can easily access this report. So I'm just going to open another browser window and try to get it started and then show you the print functionality. All right, so let's try this again. Yeah, so just so so this is how you get the link. It's just that you've done the assessment. You have the full. You gave consent for us to generate the full report for you. So after that, the link is yours forever. You have the link, and you can just open it. You can put it in any browser. Then Bob your uncle. It generates that report every single time. So as you can see, it's going to go to that. There we go. And now let's try printing this. I'm going to have a chat with the guys down down at IT admin. I swear, this was working literally minutes before.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's move on.
Started.
So you guys will have to trust us that there's a very nice printable version, purpose-built. It works great.
Oh, it just opened.
Anything else
guys,
to add about the assessment tool, Henry?
No, it's like this is so no. So just to rather just to reiterate, it's just this is available. This is available now. It's going to officially go live very shortly. So you guys are getting the first view of all this. And no, it's by all means, feel free to ask us questions about this both now and say offline afterwards. So because it worked, I got it to print. I'm going to show you it right now. Second. Yeah. Here we are. So it printed. Now Adobe Reader is not responding. I'm so sorry, everyone.
I think your computer's having a hard time with the presentation software.
Could be. But as you can all see, it's there. It's printed up, nice and neat. All the recommendations are in place. Yeah, all of them. So yeah, it's all here. And again,
all right.
We invite you. Yeah, this is what it looks like in a nutshell, and how it works.
Terrific. I think everybody's very impressed. Great tool. So if you can unshare your screen.
Yep, I'm doing that right now. Thank you for your attention, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Henry. So we're going to take just a couple of minutes, and we're pressed for time, but I wanted to make sure we talked about remote work, and we talked a lot about the assessment itself, because that was really the reason that we were here. I was asked to prepare a couple of minutes about the usual obstacles to pitching cybersecurity in a business. And we at SureWeb, we work a lot with managed service providers. I think we've mentioned that, and I see in our audience that there's a lot of people that are not necessarily in that world. So I'll go quickly here, but so 4 of the typical challenge that we see with around that is around building your offer. There's a lot of questions around, like, how do you go about packaging that security, how to present it. It's one of the things that we can help you with at SureWeb, because we've done it a fair amount. One of the focus that we see is generally, as much as possible, we try to make security a part of the offer, not necessarily a separate part, add-on. The idea with that is that security should be part of everything. I think it's one of the challenge most people have, is that it's, so how to phrase this? If you make it a SKU that people can choose, they will choose not to have it. And that can be a bit of a shocking thing to technical people, like, why wouldn't you want to be secure? But you have to take it from the point of view of the people that pay the bills. And for them, this is like insurance. And honestly, insurance you will take as little of as you can. A classic sentence that I get is, one way that I present it is, my building is not on fire right now. Why am I buying fire insurance? Cybersecurity is sadly seen a little bit in the same way. And that's why more and more we see as far as success when it comes to presenting it and selling it to people is to make it part of the offering. So basically, if I'm selling you Office 365, I'm not selling you a SKU. I'm not selling you Office 365 E3. What I'm selling you is managed productivity. And what that means is I'm taking care of your productivity, meaning I will provide you the right tools, and generally that's Office 365, but I will secure it, I will train you, I will implement it, I will do change management, the patching, like things like that. They should be all part of your offer. And we see a lot more success for the people that are able to build that in. The second challenge is how to pitch it. Generally, and I would make this recommendation to every security department out there, include like MSPs or direct business, is security is the greatest Trojan horse ever. We all know the fable of the Trojan horse. So the idea is you disguise a business critical conversation into a security conversation, which is basically a technical conversation. But as you've seen a little bit from the assessment, the first thing that you would ask in a security conversation is, what's your organization like? Like, what is the real data that you want to secure? You have to identify the value before you can secure it. So quickly, the conversation turned to what the business is doing and what the value of the business is. What do we have to protect? Like, what if you lost it would be the end of the world type of thing. And then that goes a little bit with raising awareness. We talk about using the assessment to raise that awareness. Training is also often the forgotten part of cybersecurity. I think most people here are technical-minded people. We generally think of software and tools as the solution to just about everything, when really I think it's time to accept that the security will always be defeated by the user. The reason that security is still a problem today, despite all those advancements in cybersecurity, is the fact that there's still a user involved. If I could do IT without the users, it'd be sweet. Same thing for if you could do business without having to sell anything, it'd be easy. The users, the people that you have to make sure they're involved. Training is a great way to raise awareness. Once people know the kind of trouble they can get into, generally they'll be much more open to the solutions. And then the last question is legal liabilities. So if you're selling security services, hang on, just making sure I got the answer. Yeah. So if you're selling legal services, something to consider, like how much legal liability are you getting yourself into? You don't want to get into trouble because you said you would take care of security. Generally, it's a good idea to involve legal consultant the first time you draft your contracts and things like that. Honestly, I would do it even if you weren't doing cybersecurity at all, but it's something to look into. If you're a direct business and you're dealing with vendors and solution providers, then it's the reverse question. Make sure their contract talks about legal liabilities. What is their responsibility? What is not their responsibility? Do they have payroll, insurance, and things like that? It's an important step. It's one that is not obvious. I said technical people don't think about the people enough. Well, they like to avoid legal even more. If I look at me personally, then that's definitely true. So SureWeb is here to help. For everybody that's a managed service provider, we're very focused on that. We have 4 pillars where we like to invest ourselves and help our clients succeed. So we can help you with business strategy. We can definitely help you with products and solutions, as we'll talk about in just a little bit. We definitely have that cloud expertise, and we can invest. The idea is really for you not to have to invest in everything. If you're a smaller business, the scale just doesn't make sense. You won't have a pre-sales, a technical support. Like, you can't have all those things. The idea is to use SureWeb to fill the gaps. One of the gaps that we've identified with most of our partners is marketing. They definitely don't have a dedicated marketing person. The people that have tried generally don't have a lot of success with it. So we're recommending that you leverage what SureWeb does as far as marketing. We can work one-on-one. You can use our material. Take the assessment. Really, it can also be used as a marketing tool. And then the operational effectiveness, we're there to help you run your business with Partner Portal, the billing, the integration with your RMM, things like that. Definitely migration. That's one of our specialty. That's what we're known for, the free migration. Just moving forward, because we're going to run out of time a little bit. So we've talked about this. I'll move on quickly to just the product. First one I want to mention is Office Protect. The reason I want to mention it in particular is because it is not well known. The reason it's not well known is we created it from scratch at SureWeb. Office Protect is a software as a service meant to help secure Office 365. It is my personal project. I'm very involved in that project. We have a whole team working on it. We've been very dedicated the past couple of years. And basically, the question I have for you is, what are you doing for the security of Office 365? If the answer is not a lot, then you're missing a lot of things. Office Protect is just there to make sure you don't miss anything. So it will help you implement best practice security settings into Office 365, any kind of tenant. They don't have to be at SureWeb. You don't have to be a client of SureWeb for Office 365 to use Office Protect. And then the second thing it will do is it'll monitor Office 365. So anybody here has dealt with the Office 365 logs? If you have, you know the pain. The idea with Office Protect is you can invest a lot less time in each and every client or just your organization. Office Protect is a great way to get started with Office 365 security. You can rely on Microsoft. The thing with Microsoft is that's one of the answers we get a lot about Office Protect isn't Microsoft dealing with the security of Office 365. They are. Office 365 security is one of the greatest in the world. It is industrial, military strength security, but it's not tailored for you. it's tailored for Microsoft. So Microsoft deals with Microsoft security, the overall platform, the systems, their backend system. It's very, very important that they do. But after that, some of the responsibility falls with you. You have to take care of your own organizations. Office Protect is just there to make that simple. It is very affordable as well. It is simple and affordable. So a great way to get started. If you don't have security for Office 365, consider Office Protect. Only at SureWeb.
I know I'm not supposed to interrupt you, but can I jump in just for half a second?
Oh, please do.
Yes, because the Office Protect is so important right now in the context of everyone working from home. Like if you had a company with a tenant on Office 365 that now everyone has remote workers with, again, different setup, the home Wi-Fi, the home router, not best practices, not configured properly. Adding Office Protect, the alerts that you get, the reports, at least for that first month, will allow you to get some sleep and knowing that you're not exposing all of your tenants' information to the whole wide world. That was it. Continue.
Right, absolutely. This is what we see the most amongst, thanks, Alex. What we see the most amongst security professionals, be it in a managed service provider or directly in an organization, is lack of time. Lack of time. It is your most valuable resource, the one that's very limited. You never get any more time. You have a very definite amount. The idea with Office Protect is to save that time. Like you may wind up coming back to Office 365 security and investing in setting up like DLP policies and things like that. But this is improving your baseline in like 10 minutes. So it's part of all of our Office 365 offers. You should come and have a look. And then we have a whole slew of security products. Office Protect is there. Office 365 itself offers everything. So it has everything. I'm very honest, as we are at SureWeb. Some of them you may prefer a third party to do it. Some of them you'll prefer Office 5. I think one of the best quality of Office 5 security in Microsoft 365. English failing. It's integration. So basically everything is integrated into Office 365 already, and it's a couple of clicks to get anything going. We offer Proofpoint when it comes to email security, encryption, archiving. DLP as well. It is great, very, very well respected in the industry. We have Bitdefender for endpoint protection, very good platform, a lot of options to make it a very complete solution, including EDR, event detection and response. And then the forgotten stepchild of security, online backup. People often forget, but really at the end of the day, can you guarantee that your organization or one of your clients will never have a security issue? You can't. And then how do you get sort of safe with that? Like, how do you live with that fact is you make sure you have good backups. And having good backups means they're not just on premise, the old 3-2-1 motto, and you test them. I've always said you don't have backup until you've tried to restore them. So you want to make sure that you restore your backup and give them a good go. Getting to the end here, a couple of resources of things. So a couple of things that we talked about today. Very simple URL to try our security assessment. I'm assuming everybody will do that right after this presentation or while I'm talking, which is fine. Wouldn't blame you. SureWeb.com/assessment. Easy breezy. And then we have on-demand webinar, which Alex was referring to, working remotely with Modern Workplace. Slightly tougher URL, but still, I think it may be available on YouTube as well on our channel, the SureWeb channel. So you may want to look into that. A lot of information on that YouTube channel. Plus, if you're working from home, probably have time to run a couple of videos in the background there. We do have special offers that are currently running. So Teams 6-month free trial is available. I think you have to be a new customer of Teams, the only specification. For remote access, we offer our own infrastructure as a service called Performance Cloud. So you have 90 days free there as well. Act quick. Our managed services, so Network Operations Center services, have a 60-day trial. This is a brand new service we've started to offer. We were always offering it internally, like it was part of some of their offers, but now it's available out there. I strongly suggest you check it out. Step 3, stay connected. VoIP. We have a free Cloud PBX for the first 60 days. Also, we have something where we will do emergency setup right now for Cloud PBX. So Cloud PBX is VoIP. We didn't talk about it today very much, but we do that as well. We have a very quick turnaround right now if it is necessary. So if you're in a situation where the organization wasn't ready to work from home, but they need to do so right now, you should talk to us. Virtual desktops, if you go with the Microsoft offer, Nerdio offers 60-day free trial. I believe there is no Microsoft offer for free virtual desktops. That'd be too nice. We'll keep an eye out for it, but so far, no. NOC Essential is a little bit like our NOC Pro, a little bit simpler. Office Protect is currently offered, instead of its 30-day trial that comes with our Office 365, you can get 90 days right now, 60 days for Bitdefender. And then we have Quick Help, which is our training platform. Very, very, very important. I mentioned the weak link being humans. You can get 45 days free trial. That was a lot of offers. Let me leave that on. So, Henry, any questions me and or Alex can address for our audience today?
Yeah, I'll start with questions I can address first, and then just move on to questions that you might be a bit better placed to respond to. So actually a couple people asked if this can be branded. So effectively, people are asking if the assessment tool can be white labeled. And for now, no. There are plans. So as Guillaume was saying at the outset, we are going to be iteratively improving this tool as the year goes on, and it's in our roadmap for this tool to eventually have a white label version of this that can be branded and make it even more useful for you. But presently, it's not offered as such. So that's one. Let's see here. So a few other questions. I'm just going to answer a cluster of them all at once. There's no limits to how often you can take this assessment. You can there's a function that I did not show earlier in the demo. You can clear your answers and just redo the whole thing. So that's actually accessible to you as well. And obviously, if there's any, it being a brand new tool, if there's any functionality issues, please contact us and let us know. But there should be no limits on this. We really, we didn't gate this to start it, and we're not going to limit you to just a single use. That's counterproductive to what we're trying to do here. There's not going to be any paper versions of this, I'm sorry to say. This is an online tool, and I've already mentioned earlier that this assessment will store nobody's data without their consent. It will be stored locally on their machine as a convenience factor, so that if you lose your session, you won't be penalized and have to restart all the way at the beginning. But the data is stored locally. We take nothing without your consent. I think there's more question maybe for Guillaume. I think you might have just answered this. Somebody asked if there's free MS Virtual Desktops. Guillaume, you said no?
No. Blame Microsoft. No, I don't. But it is. So basically, if you want to get a trial, and we have it here, basically you would have to come to SureWeb and use our own infrastructure as a service. It works really well for RDS. It is one of the use cases that we've worked with the most. We have hundreds of clients that are set up that way. So just come talk to us, and we'll get you going.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, for the actual Windows Virtual Desktop, although there is no trial right now or anything from Microsoft, the actual access to Windows Virtual Desktop comes from having a M365 license or a Windows E3 or E5 license through the CSP program, and then you'll be responsible for the actual usage of the Azure consumptions while you are in your virtual environment. And the best way we can describe it is that for a normal user, you can expect between $10 and $50 a month on average, more towards the low end depending on who they are. And then for power users, like say for example someone who needs to use AutoCAD or any other graphic intensive type of software, would be more around between $100 and $200 a month of usage.
Okay. So it looks as though there were a couple people asked this question. This one I can answer. So they're asking if you have to be a partner with SureWeb to make use of the tool. Just to clearly repeat this answer, because we kind of touched on this already. No, you don't have to be a partner with SureWeb to make use of this. You can use this for yourself. It's just that you have to be mindful of that the wording was written for partners in mind. But the substance of the assessment is still the same regardless. So for now, as I said, we only have one version that's available. It's just for partners to use for their customers. But if you want to assess yourself using this, you can just as easily do so by just treating yourself as if you were the customer.
And one of the comment that was made is that even if you're running your own business, well, not running your own business, let's say you're within a company running the IT or the security, you do have clients. There's different departments. You'll have stakeholders and everything. So, although I'm sure people can manage to understand the questions if they're worded to partners, in most cases, the people that do security are still dealing with what we would call clients, and this will apply just fine. Honestly, our goal is for everybody to use this as much as possible. That's why we didn't gate it as nearly as much as we could have. We could have made it our partners only, all that stuff. And we really didn't want to. We feel any use of this is a good use of this. If you want to take the report and just use that, and at the end of the day, you don't become a SureWeb client, we're still happy that this has helped as far as cybersecurity. We'd love for you to become a SureWeb client. Let me be completely clear, but it's not a requirement. That's not what this is about.
Yeah. So I've got a couple more questions here. I know we're running short on time, but it's just, I think these are important enough. Maybe Alex can just, well, it's kind of touched on this already, but there's a question here. How would I convince customers to switch to remote when if they're already in crisis? Alex, do you want to try to answer that question?
Well, it would be like, I would recommend the slide that's showing right now to try to get them on a free trial. So again, like there is no obstacle of cost for those clients that are reluctant right now to try to move to the cloud in any way, shape, or form. So if there's no risk involved for them, and again, the Teams platform was built a bit like Guillaume said earlier, military grade type security. So it's not as if you were, telling them use your Facebook home account and create a Facebook group and we'll all chat. It's really like the true solution that has the enterprise grade security that is extended for free for 6 months. And I'll tell you, like as soon as they have that first Teams meeting, and even for the people that don't have like a webcam at home, you can install it on your cell phone and the camera works just fine to be able to see those coworkers that you've been, not seeing for a couple of weeks, when usually you saw them more than your family, it'll have that impact and you don't even need to do anything else afterwards. They're going to be like, okay, yes,
I think it's worth noting that Teams had an increase of 50% in usage the last couple of weeks. And I didn't see even a glitch. Like the performance is the same, sound quality is the same, everything works great. I think it's a big testament to how solid Microsoft built it.
Yes, and there has been, there have been a lot of reports in Europe, especially with everyone being confined, how a lot of the big companies have reduced the bandwidth, like say for YouTube and Netflix. And we've been seeing some announcements, from certain services that are degraded to try to manage, that increased. I think even for Azure, it was 775% increase in consumption over the last month. So it's really something that no one has seen in North America, the impact of those. And there's even been a study from Comcast earlier today that was put out that showed that even with the added stress on the networks, I think it was like something like 33% extra stress on the networks, they have the bandwidth. The North American infrastructure has been set up to handle that kind of stress. It's kind of like people were not adopting it fast enough for the hardware that was already in place. So now now we have all that buffer zone for everyone to come in. So yes, Microsoft, I think they're going to reach 50 million users by the end of this week on Teams. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, and we didn't touch on this a lot, but there is a challenge right now, and I'm not saying it will be all rosy and everything. It is a tough time, and I don't just mean me dealing with my kids, like actual tough time. But it is also a great opportunity to get people out of their ways a little bit. Like we see it all the time amongst our MSP clients, is they can't get the clients to move. Nobody wants to spend. They have a 2003 server in the closet somewhere, and it's still running, so I'm not touching it. I don't think anybody should start on the other side of this with their old stuff. Like it should all be in a modern way. Like it's time to bring it. Even if people don't do it now, the day that they want to restart, and there'll be a lot of new company, you'll have new clients, people that just went dormant and they want to start over again. You should bring them on modern system as you do. Nobody will want to buy infrastructure, I don't think, as they're coming out of a crisis like that. So cloud service are the way to go. It's true for people that are managed water. It's true for people that are in an enterprise. Like now is the time to plan for that and make sure you're ready, hit the ground running because the sun will come back. Like it is a fact. Like things will get better.
Are you about to sing for us, Guillaume? Are you about to sing for us? The sun will come out tomorrow. Is that what's about to happen?
Yes. So yeah, well, you can see it in my window. It's a beautiful day here in Sherbrooke in Canada. I want to be mindful of everybody's time. I want to thank everybody, and I'm gonna pass it back. I want to thank Alex personally and Henry for joining me. It's much better if it's not just me talking for an hour. I think everybody's gonna appreciate that. And I want to pass it back to Raquel.
Right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Guillaume, Henry, and Alex. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us. And also thank you to the audience for attending today's webcast sponsored by SureWeb and presented by rcpmag.com. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.